There we go.
Awesome. I am so excited for this episode. I'm kind of doing something a little bit new for you guys, if you can't tell. My guest co-host is not next to me. She is actually on the screen. This is Talar, and she is from Center Court. She does, I guess it's a video, like a TV show, right? For the Boston Celtics. So, this is my guest host. So, Talar, if you would like to introduce yourself or say anything significant about who you are and what you do, I would love for you to tell the listeners about yourself.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Hi guys, I'm Talar. Yeah, I'm based right outside Boston. I do a local show here. I mean, it's small. It's on cable TV, but yeah, I do an NBA basketball show. So I'm excited to be here and talk to you about everything.
Yeah. It's me to have you. I know we've been connected on Twitter for a while now, and I actually think we got connected through I think it was Women in NBA Twitter thread or something like that, which is cool. Obviously, there's a big group of us on NBA Twitter that, our females are all supporting each other, rallying around each other, and kind of just helping each other be heard. So that's how you and I connected, and I kind of like sharing those types of stories with the listeners, just because I know sometimes they're like, how did these people find each other? But also just kind of want to bring light to, I guess, how easy it is to connect with people from all over the place on social media, just through not just sports, but your own personal hobbies and interests and things like that too. I think that a lot of people take social media for granted in a connection bearing way. So I like to kind of highlight those things. A lot of the people that I've had on the show for guests are people that I've connected with through social media, and obviously you're no different. So I'm very thankful that you're able to lend your time and come on as a guest co-host. It's super exciting for me to be able to have you on. So I guess without further ado, we'll just get right into episode 6. Doing a little bit of follow-up. Obviously, we had the All-Star game this last weekend. What did you think about that? How would you go about digesting the All-Star game?
It's so much to digest, right? Well, I love that. First of all, we had 2 Celtics in it. That was awesome.
Yes.
I hate the way it ended.
I did
too. You can't end an All-Star game on free throws. It was really good too.
Yeah, the last quarter was so intense. I mean, social media was going off. Like, everybody was talking about how this is probably one of the most intense games in general, not just a game in general at all for anything. Mm-hmm.
It was unbelievable, and I've never seen that level of competitiveness at an All-Star game between these guys. So that was super fun, and the NBA did a great job fixing it. But to have it end on Anthony Davis free throws, and listen, it's the first year they're doing it, so it's all right, there are kinks to work out. But next season it has to be okay. You can't end. There's a rule that you can't end it on free throws. Someone at my office suggested have them end it on a half-court shot. That's the only way you can win it. That was so fun.
It was kind of surprising to me that nobody in the rules committee thought, what if it goes to a free throw? I don't know. I feel like, we all know that Chris Paul is the president of the Players Association, and I'm like, how did nobody think that this could be a possibility? It should have been a clause to begin with, cannot end on a free throw, must be, a regulation bucket, not at the line. So I was pleased to see that was a majority consensus about the free throw thing, that pretty much everybody that was watching was like, nah, this is not how it ends. So hopefully they take away that feedback in a positive way for next year.
I think so. I was hoping that, so when he missed the first free throw, I was like, oh man, please miss the second one. And I feel like everybody was doing the same thing, and it was a bummer that he made it, because you just want to see some crazy buzzer beat, shot clock beating bucket or something, make bookend it the way an All-Star game should be bookended.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember when he went to that free throw, I can't remember who it was on Team Giannis. It might have actually been, I think it was Joel Embiid. But when AD went to the line, you could see Joel like, nah, man, you have to miss these. Like,
100%.
basically trying to convince Anthony Davis to purposely miss the free throws so that it didn't end like that. And you're like, come on, AD, like, don't let it end like that. You can't let it end like that. But I did have Team LeBron as my prediction to win it, so I was happy that despite the closeness of the game at the end, that Team LeBron was able to rally it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Team LeBron on paper, he has a better team. Like,
Yeah.
like you have the first overall pick and you take Joel Embiid. Like, I think that Anthony Davis is sitting right there, and you don't like. I don't get it. Someone made like a really funny video about it. Like, how are you gonna you don't take Luka, you don't take Anthony Davis, like you don't take Jason Tatum. I don't understand what happened. Giannis is not a good GM.
Yeah, it's safe to say that Bucks management will not be consulting Giannis as for their free agency picks next year.
Don't think. I think Budenholzer is the one they're just gonna go straight to.
Oh man, that's hilarious. But what did you think about all the Kobe tributes and the 24-point advantage for the fourth quarter and all of that stuff? How did you think that fit into the bigger picture?
I think they tried to do as much as they could,
Yeah.
without it being too much, without it feeling like everything is 24, and without making it too tacky almost. I loved the 2 and 24 on the jerseys, and honestly, I might be in the minority here. I wouldn't be opposed to just having that as All-Star jerseys.
I agree.
Every year, because that's how you don't need your real number for an All-Star game.
No.
So just have 2 and 24, and that's a good way to honor him.
Yeah,
and her.
Previous All-Star games had to alter their number depending on the format because somebody else on that same team wore the same number or something like that. So I know that sometimes, depending on how the jerseys are fashioned, they will make guys change numbers only for the All-Star team. So I am agreeing with you with that I think they should adopt that. And I think it's also a really good way annually to memorialize Kobe. I know that there was a lot of talk about, making him the logo and things like that. And I feel like that's such a controversial idea. There's people who are for it. There's people who are against it. But I think that everybody was in agreement that the All-Star game and the team numbers for the All-Star games was a good way to honor both Kobe and Gianna. So I fully agree with you on that. I think that, moving forward, they should keep the 2 and the 24 and kind of make that the league's memorialization of Kobe, so to speak. So definitely agree with you on that. I think, to kind of sum up the whole weekend, I think it was awesome. Obviously, like we said, Team LeBron played a little bit tougher, a little bit smarter in the draft, gave them just a little bit of an advantage. Obviously, me as a Blazers fan, I was super bummed to see that Damian Lillard got hurt the night before. Mm-hmm. But definitely totally in line with Damian's class act persona to recommend Devin Booker, to take his spot. Obviously, Dame is a huge Devin Booker fan in general, personally, of him. So I thought that was a really class act move of Damian to throw his name out there instead of just, someone good deserves it. He actually named somebody. And I thought that was really cool. So moving on, though, following up the Oregon State UCLA game. I know you're an East Coast girl. This is probably a little out of your repertoire, but
I'll give it a shot.
Oregon girl. And Oregon State was the lower ranked of the two in this game. I think UCLA was 8, and Oregon State was, I think, 15 at the time.
Oh, wow.
UCLA won in overtime, so obviously Oregon State gave them a run for their money. Oregon State and Oregon should be making the women's March Madness tournament, so it'll definitely be interesting to see how the Pac-12 shakes out. I know they've got UCLA, Oregon State, Oregon, Stanford is ranked, Arizona and Arizona State are ranked. So the Pac-12 as a whole is just phenomenal right now in women's basketball. So that was one of the reasons why I picked that for a prediction game. Nothing really significant about it other than the fact that they were both ranked. So, and then the Kentucky LSU game was my prediction for the men's basketball over the weekend, and I think I picked LSU. I cannot remember for the life of me who I picked. But Kentucky won by 3, and that's significant because multiple ranked teams, especially in the SEC and ACC, have been almost upset by unranked teams. It's been a theme. Duke has been upset. Kansas got upset. Kansas actually upset Baylor the other night. But yeah, Kentucky almost lost it. It's one of those situations where when you're LSU and you're that unranked opponent and you're about to knock them off, it's definitely a clutch moment. So I definitely think it's indicative of how unpredictable March Madness will be. Obviously, it's always unpredictable, but I think this year is just a little bit more crazy just because, UNC is out of which is, in the last decade or more, totally out of the norm for them. So, it's just one of those things that it's gonna make things interesting turning the corner into March. So that was one of the reasons why I had that on my radar.
I'm gonna admit to you, I'm one of those bad people that really starts paying attention during the tournament.
Yeah.
So I'll see it on TV on like a Saturday, and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm gonna go do something else with my time. It's so bad. But during March Madness, I'll sit there. I'm a Duke fan. That's my team, right? Thank you. Oh my God. I have like a sweatshirt and everything. Duke men's basketball. I'm very picky. So Duke men's basketball, and for me, I'm a UConn girl. For the women, I love them growing up. I just think they're awesome, and so I won't pay attention to anything till the tournament. But I have seen that Duke got their asses kicked, I think last week or something, and I was like, oh, what is happening?
The last Wake Forest, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, I'm so glad to know that you're a Dookie too. I didn't know that.
Oh, I love them. I get crap for it sometimes, so I'm like, it's not my fault that your team probably sucks. So, in true New England fashion,
So I have, I refer to him as my cousin just to avoid the long explanation, but we have a generational family friend. You might actually recognize the name Kyle Singler, who used to play at Duke and also used to play for OKC. But his cousin Mitchell actually coaches on the offensive football line at Duke also. Oh, wow. So like I said, it's a little bit easier for me to jokingly refer to them as cousins. But my dad was friends with their dad, and obviously I'm friends with them, and close family ties there. So everybody's always like, why are you such a Duke fan? La da 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 da. And then I say that, and they're like, oh, okay. I guess I can't argue with that at all. And then just always, I have been a lifelong Duke fan since the Christian Laettner days.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Yeah. When did I become a fan? Maybe I was in middle school or something. I watched them and I fell in love with them. I was like, they're great. I think, or maybe I was in high school. I think I started to really like them when that first championship run against Butler. Was it Butler? The first one.
I think that was Derric was on the squad.
Was it then?
I think so. I'm pretty positive.
I think maybe 2009, 2010. I'm going to say that kind of time frame, maybe.
Okay.
I think it was around there. That's when I started to like them. So it's been about 10 years or so. Yeah.
Derric has been in the NBA for 12 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, like right around JJ Redick's era, Duke was right. I mean, that's definitely more of the memorable Duke times for me as far as like them being powerhouse and it kind of going back and forth between UNC and Duke all these years. So, no, I didn't know that. I'm really excited to know that you're a Duke fan. At least now I have somebody to text during games.
Yes, oh my God, yeah, absolutely. March Madness, you can hit me up as much as you want. It's fine.
It's better than talking shit to my UNC fans.
Oh my God. They'll eat you alive, man.
Yeah, I'm eating them alive. I haven't given any of my UNC fans a chance to talk shit. I'm like, y'all aren't even ranked. Sit down, shut up.
Oh man, that's too good. Oh, was it last year though that they had beaten Duke at home or something? I don't know. There was one game that they won, and I was just like, it was regular season. I think I watched it, and I was like,
Was it last
I think so.
game at Duke when Zion blew his shoe out?
It might have been that game. I don't even know. There's so many games.
Game, and Zion blew his shoe out like I think 30 seconds into the game or something like that.
The Nike shoe, yeah, and everyone made fun of it. Like, what are you guys making? It's like big collar brand. Like, that's how bad this quality.
Oh man, Nike's gonna sue us for that.
Oh. I don't know this. I didn't do it.
That's so. Well, let's get to some notable news topics. Obviously, there's a lot going on around the NBA. A couple other things I want to talk about, but first, Fury versus Wilder. That was this weekend. I personally was rooting for Deontay Wilder. So I was really, really surprised at the outcome of the fight. I think it was like right around the 4th or 5th round when I started to actually really worry that Deontay Wilder was not going to make it through this fight. There was one really good combo that Fury threw on Wilder in I think it was the 5th round, and I was very confident that Wilder was going to get knocked out then, but I think he held on till either the 6th or 7th round. I don't remember when they actually ended up throwing in the towel, but I was so surprised. I was so surprised that it did not go the distance. I thought that perhaps maybe their opening ceremonies were a little distracting, at least to Wilder. I don't know if you caught them, but Fury came out on like a throne. Like he had, like pallbearers carrying him on this
God,
like on a throne. And I'm not terribly familiar with boxing. Like, I don't know if this is like a usual thing that they typically do, but from what I understand, the entrances are like insanely detailed and insanely intricate, like they were. And then when Wilder came out with like his suit on or whatever, obviously the first thing I thought of was, holy shit, how much does that thing cost? And then the second thing I thought of was, holy shit, how much does that thing weigh?
Valid question.
Yeah, and then right before we got on the call to record, I saw something on social media about Wilder saying that the suit weighed so much that it affected his legs. And I don't know how much truth there is to that, or if that's something that Wilder actually came out and said publicly. But I'm like, no, bro, you had to have tried that thing on before you walked out with it. You know what I mean? Like, this is not an excuse. This is not going to be a cop out. But a lot of people are now talking if Fury should fight Anthony Joshua, which Anthony Joshua is the heavyweight title holder in the 3rd boxing division, which I'm not going to name it because I don't know it.
Close enough.
But people are saying that's going to be the next heavyweight fight. And I'm personally a big Anthony Joshua fan. I know a lot of people like to hate on him, but I actually really like him. And I hate to say it, but I think that Fury could beat him too. So that's just kind of my takeaway on that event this weekend. There's not really much else to say.
I mean, I did some reading today about the Joshua, the Fury Joshua, fight, because there have been, multiple people that are like, is that going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And I guess like there are a lot of broadcasting contractual issues with it, and like the fighters want it to happen, but like it's above them, I think.
Gotcha.
It's like Fury is signed with ESPN and Joshua is signed with some like English, broadcasting company. So like the rights, and so I guess it's like a lot of that type of stuff.
Okay.
So, but they want to do it. So like it said it wouldn't come till at least 2021, if not probably later. That's something to keep an eye on.
I mean, I guess I understand all of that. I didn't really know that. I guess I'm with you. I didn't really know that those types of things played a part. I thought that they just paid the guys and they fought.
Yeah, you don't really think like I know for certain things like Super Bowl halftime shows, right? Like for example, they won't have Taylor Swift perform because she signed with Coke and it's a Pepsi halftime show.
Gotcha. Yeah, that
right?
makes sense.
But I didn't know that like in the boxing world that TV rights would go this far into actually determining if a match would happen. I never even knew that.
Huh, curious. Definitely should probably keep my eye on that a little bit more. But yeah, I'm with the rest of the fighting world. I personally would love to see a Fury Joshua fight. Like I said, I'm a Joshua lover, but I think it would be a good thing to give the fans. I can't really think of a better way to say it, but I think that it's appropriate to give the fans what they want. And I think that even if it takes a little bit and builds a little bit of an anticipation around the fight community, that to give the people what they want and the matchup people want to see is just going to make the sport better and more popular. So hopefully they end up being able to make that happen, because I think that UFC and boxing tend to go back and forth in their rise for popularity, and I think it would just be really cool for the fighting and mixed martial arts communities if they were both kind of popular at the same time. And I know that obviously, the acquisition of UFC with ESPN has helped elevate that, but it seems like boxing is a little more underground currently than UFC is. So, and I think that boxing laid the foundation for UFC personally. So I think it would be great to see both of them kind of rise to the spotlight at the same time. So hopefully that happens, and hopefully we can continue to see some good matchups, because I feel like the last handful of not only boxing matches but UFC fights has been very exciting as well. So hopefully all of that continues, because the athletic community needs its fire.
100%.
And then I did mention it a little bit ago when we were doing our follow-up, but switching really quick to NCAA again, we had Kansas upset Baylor, which, like I mentioned previously, is significant because Baylor was ranked number 1 and Kansas was ranked, I believe, number 3 at the time. And Baylor was on like a 16-game winning streak or something crazy like that. Yeah, so, yeah, like I said, one of those things that kind of like puts people's perception of things on its head as we're going into March Madness, when people think that one team is better than another team or one team can outlast another team, and then you get, Baylor sitting in the number 1 seed. Kansas comes along at Baylor's home arena and upsets them. So always significant to upset a team in their home arena, especially when they're on a winning streak like that. So I just felt that was necessary to touch on that a little bit, because, like we all know, March is coming around the corner.
Oh, yeah.
And,
this weekend, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Next week. So, I don't know. Kansas is always one of those teams that's in the conversation as far as at least like the Final Four goes when it comes to the big dance. But Baylor is kind of one of those teams that always gets overlooked. So I don't think it did much for them as far as being in the conversation goes to lose to Kansas.
I mean, think about it. Every year, even if these teams aren't good, you always have North Carolina is always in the conversation. Duke is always in the conversation. Kansas is always in the conversation. That's like your top three. That's really always in the convo. And
Louisville kind of flipped back and forth as far as who takes that Final Four spot. I know Louisville is kind of always one of those sneaker teams that ends up, upsetting somebody that more and more people are rooting for. But then once Louisville gets that advancement and upsets somebody, then they finally get the attention that they deserve. So hopefully the March Madness conversation isn't as repetitive this year as it has been in previous years.
So I love the tournament because like last year how Auburn had that run.
Yep.
To the Final Four, and then oh man, what was it? He tore his ACL. I forgot his name. But he tore his ACL in like a Final Four game or something. I love seeing what these other schools that don't have, like Auburn is known for their football. They're not known for their basketball team.
Right.
So a lot of these football schools, I'm always interested to see how they do in this tournament or these something because they have top talent. They have NBA level talent. You just don't hear about them because it's not Duke and it's not Kentucky.
Yep, I agree with you. I'm trying, now that you say that, I'm like trying to remember which player that was that got hurt, and of course I'm sure as soon as we get off the call it will come to me.
It's gonna, oh man, definitely.
But yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think that these upsets leading into March can only make things a little bit more exciting, make people hesitate a little bit more when it comes to their brackets and their selections and things like that. I mean, I know some people that fill out as many as like 8 or 10 brackets and they are all money brackets. And I'm like, A, I don't know if I want to do that, but B, it's a good idea because when you have that many brackets, unless you're copying one after the other, it's a lot of opportunities to kind of pick and choose upsets and pick and choose advancements and things like that. So, I don't know, definitely exciting. I'm excited for March Madness this year. I think it's going to be one of the more exciting March Madnesses we've seen in the last couple of decades. So I don't think that there is anybody out there who could even come close to picking who they think will win it because there's just so many variables right now. So, it's going to be exciting. Definitely eyes wide open as we go into it because we can't miss a thing.
100%.
But switching gears a little bit more to MLB, spring training just started. And I think the biggest storyline is obviously the Astros cheating scandal. There's so much in the news about it and about what's going on, about the punishment, about what the other players think, players for the Astros, players for the other team. It's like this conglomeration of opinions. And I thought it was hilarious that at their spring training opener, Astros hecklers were having their signs stolen.
I heard about that.
Yeah, and when you take the time to go to a store and you buy a piece of poster board and you get your big fat permanent marker and you come up with your flag phrase and you walk your happy ass into the stadium and you've got your sign and you're sitting out there on the third base line with your sign and you're so proud of yourself, and then stadium security comes along and tap, 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 sir, we need to confiscate that. It's just so ironic to me that obviously it's a different kind of sign stealing, but the irony of what they're doing to the fans who have opinions about what the Astros have done to baseball is kind of bittersweet, I guess.
It's, oh man, the whole Astros thing, like, it's like, where do you even start, right?
Yeah.
It's so, being in Massachusetts, I mean, Alex Cora got fired or he stepped down or whatever that nonsense is. We're all very mad at the Red Sox right now anyway. So. Nonsense. And it's like, okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I heard that the pitchers were like aiming for the Astros, like when they're pitching, they're hitting them in the arm.
Yeah.
That's what I read. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't feel bad for Houston.
Nope.
No, because okay, you did what you did back then, but you didn't apologize for it at all. Did you see that scam of an apology?
Yep.
Awful. Like, Jose Altuve just kind of like, was it him? Am I getting names mixed up? I don't know.
Yeah, Jose Altuve.
Yeah. He gave an apology, but it was like the most awful thing I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like, why would you even bother?
On Twitter, was tweeting about how any pitcher in the major leagues who hits a batter with a pitch gets a bigger punishment for that than any of the Astros players or personnel get for stealing signs. This sounds so dramatic, but when you think about the integrity of the game and the structure of the game, what they did is like an abomination to the game of baseball.
The sad part is, though, that's what baseball is.
Yeah.
Everybody does it. And it drives me nuts that people are acting like baseball is this pure sport. Baseball is like the dirtiest of all of them. They knowingly cheat, they knowingly steal signs. The difference is they don't get caught.
Exactly.
And I don't know. There was like a whistleblower on the Astros who did this. You won your title. You got your money. Why are you going to the MLB saying like we cheated? Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Get your butt down.
As a Yankees fan, I have to try and remove my personal feelings from it. But as a sports fan, I'm like, no, keep the personal feelings in it, because if you were playing or you got beat by a team or a person who was later found to be cheating, I'd be furious. I'd be writing letters. I'd be making calls. I would be writing mothers. You know what I mean?
Excuse me, Mrs. Altuve, do you know what your son did?
Yes, this would be a huge game of fucking tattletale.
Well, you see all the reaction in Los Angeles? That's why everyone's so mad out there.
Yep.
Everyone's so mad. And I think they're a little ridiculous right now, too, though, for being like, you need to vacate both the Astros and the Red Sox titles and give them to us. Like, okay, you need to just... It doesn't work like that. No one is ever going to do that, first of all. And LeBron came out and said something, too, and he's like, I'm in sports, and I believe this. It's like, okay, buddy, we know you're in sports, but you need to stop talking, too. Like, it's just like...
The longest hashtag ever.
Like, dude, we get it, but like, no one is gonna, in the city councilman in LA who like wants to sign like a law or something. I don't know. There's like the whole thing where they want the title stripped, and I'm just sitting there like, they can vacate the title, but they're not gonna give it to the Dodgers. Y'all lost.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but that's a situation where when you talk about stripping the title, that's one thing. But to then hand it to somebody else, then you're talking like, that's like, you got to go back and play games and things like that to determine an actual winner, because you can't just say that because one team had its title stripped that a second team automatically would have won it if they didn't. You know what I mean? It changes the whole outcome of everything. It's kind of like, kind of reminds me of the Rockets game earlier in the season when people were with the call on James Harden and they wanted like the last 7 minutes of the game to be played. It's like, first of all, this isn't a playoff game. Second of all, who plays last 7? You guys both teams go to a travel date and then play for 7 minutes? Are you fucking kidding me? And then also, how do you attach that 7 minutes of play to, you know what I mean? Like, you can't, the momentum isn't the same, the energy isn't the same, you know, the players' availability and, like, how good they're feeling isn't the same. There's just too many variables. So it's like, when people start suggesting things like that, it's like, okay, stripping is one thing, but then naming a predecessor once you strip a title, that does not make sense at all. So
No, and I mean the NCAA strips titles all the time. Like they do. But I've never seen the NCAA give the title to anyone else. Like, why aren't people paying attention to what they do? You vacate it, and you vacate the MVP or whatever if there's a problem, and that's it. Your trophy case is empty. There is no winner of that game.
Yep, trophy.
It never existed.
Yeah, nobody gets a trophy that year.
Oh, can you imagine? Like, that what happened in that, that year at the Rose Bowl? Nothing, son. There was no winner of that game. Like, what even? That's what it is.
No, that's such a valid. I totally agree with you. I feel like the teams who, like the Dodgers, the Red Sox, the Yankees, the teams who had lost to the Astros when the sign stealing was part of the conversation, everybody wants to just automatically be like, oh, that title is ours. But even as a Yankee fan, I would never be boasting that year as one of our titles won, because you didn't actually win it. You got it given to you. You know what I mean? So I feel like if anybody's a legitimate sports fan, they wouldn't want a vacated title anyways. They would just want to go play for it and win it legitimately.
Well, that's the problem. A lot of people just want the title. Like, yeah. There are, as a massive Patriots fan, I can tell you, I have seen more than my fair share of vacate their title, give us the championship tweets. I've seen so many of them, especially when the whole Deflategate nonsense was happening up here. Which, by the way, let me tell you something. I went outside this morning, and guess what? My tire pressure was lower. You know why? Because it's cold outside. That's how science works.
Curious to see what you're about to say here, because I'm a Patriots hater.
I mean, I'm born and raised here. You can't blame me.
No, especially when it's your region in your city. I'm like, I guess you'd probably get more flack from the people around you if you didn't root for that team.
So I have a cousin who's a Niners fan, and the flack he gets. He lives in New England, and so it's just nonstop. Every event gives him so much crap.
Tell your cousin with them.
Noted. But now we give him crap all the time too, even more so because we gave them Garoppolo as their quarterback. So we're like, you can't even hate the Patriots anymore because you're welcome. Like, yeah. You've got nothing now.
Thank you very much.
Exactly. You have no firepower left, buddy. Sit down.
Oh, that's so funny. I can't argue with that at all. So a couple more topics here to close out our news segment, and they all just so happen to be NBA topics. Obviously, I am going to segue us into the first one as we celebrate the jersey retirement of my boy D Wade this weekend, and it was such a cool thing for me. I have been a fan of Dwayne Wade since I was 12 years old. When he was the kid at Marquette, yes, even as a Duke fan, I was like, who is Dwayne Wade? Like, I have to know about this guy. He wears number 3. I have worn number 3 all my life for various reasons. Obviously, Allen Iverson, Damon Stoudemire, and then Dwayne Wade are the biggest reasons why I wear number 3. For me, that was such a cool thing to see and see across social media, watch, his Life Unexpected special on ESPN with the jersey retirement ceremony during halftime of the Heat game on Saturday night, and they actually played the Cavaliers, which was one of 3 teams that D Wade played for during his career. But I, especially since Kobe passed, have just been having this like insane, like otherworldly appreciation for Dwayne Wade as like my GOAT and my role model. Just because as a Blazer fan, I can never appreciate Kobe to his fullest extent. Obviously, he gave us so much heartbreak, but Dwayne Wade being at Marquette and being what he was to Marquette and being what he was to the Heat, he was always somebody who I could admire on an individual level without any bias from anybody that was a City supporter.
Oh, I understand that. I mean, so I want to play off the Kobe thing for a second. The Dwayne Wade jersey retirement actually took me by surprise because I forgot that it was this weekend. But I saw highlights of it, and I'm very happy for him. That's great. He deserves it. Like, he's amazing.
Yes.
Ever since Kobe passed, I've been all over the place,
Right.
frankly. Right, For me, growing up, what Dwayne Wade was to you, Kobe was for me.
Right.
Like, so when I played basketball in high school, I got into high school in 2008, 2009. So that was when the Celtics and Lakers were like at their height, But I would sit and study Kobe Bryant, and I would put all his moves in my game.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to be him. I loved him. I thought he was like, because I was I'm very competitive when I play. And I would bite my jersey like he did. Like I would do everything.
Yeah.
And so I was also never really fully able to appreciate him either, because as a Celtics fan, you're like, you're good, but I really don't like you.
Yeah.
Especially in that 2010 finals, he just broke your heart.
Yeah.
And then in Boston, when January 26th happened, it was extra heartbreaking for us over here because of the whole rivalry and everything. And one of the Celtics radio guys said this incredible just line that was like, as Celtics fans, we didn't think Kobe Bryant could break our hearts one last time.
Oh.
And it just killed me, and I was like, oh man. And watching the thing today, yeah, it was brutal. And then watching sitting at my desk at work, I'm crying. I'm like, someone's gonna walk over and think I'm something's happening.
Yeah. As a Blazers fan, I totally agree with that sentiment of having Kobe break your heart one last time. I wrote on the evening of January 26th, after having all day to process that, I was finally able to write a handful of paragraphs. I basically titled it "Processing the Death of Kobe Bryant from the Perspective of a Blazers Fan," because being that I had my dad in NBA training camp as a referee, and my uncles, one of which is still an NBA referee, my other uncle, who has since passed, was a former NBA referee who was also in Space Jam. I have heard so many stories about Kobe throughout the years, both of him on the court, off the court, at other events, other basketball events, cheering for other athletes and other sporting events in general, the U.S. women's national team. So yeah, I can totally appreciate the sentiment of having your heart broken one more time by the GOAT. So yeah, kind of like I said, it was just all of that happening for me has really, especially because watching the memorial service this morning and having seen Dwayne Wade there, obviously, after one of the most fulfilling weekends of his life, but then having to go immediately to that, through this month-long grieving process that is certainly not even nearly over, it just puts it into perspective a little bit more about how much we need to appreciate the athletes that we have, whether they're for our team, another team, opponents, and just appreciate the greatness that all of these guys and women possess, because you never know when it might be the last chance to draw inspiration from any of them. So I just thought it was so cool that Dwayne got not just one night, but a whole weekend pull of celebration for his career. And I know that, if Kobe was still with us, he would have absolutely been a part of that with Dwayne. So, I just think it's time to stop the conversation of, people are always giving LeBron crap about like, oh, these are your opponents. Why do you train with them in the off season? How do you allow yourself to have camaraderie with guys who are your biggest opponents during the season? And it's like, that's the key word though, is during the season. When it's not the season and when they're not suited up for their teams, these guys are brothers. They're brothers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them have known each other since high school or earlier, whether playing together on traveling teams, playing together in tournaments, playing together in the All-American team, the USA basketball team, what have you. There's so many opportunities for these guys to be teammates rather than just opponents. And so I just really think that, all encompassing both Kobe and Dwayne Wade, it's just time to kind of stop the conversation of, rivals and opponents and kind of realize that these guys are really all one big family.
They are. The NBA is the best league in my opinion, and it's a lot because I just love basketball. And Adam Silver I think is great at running the league, but it's a family and you feel it.
Yeah.
With a lot of these guys, and obviously you have some guys in the league that you can tell just are like not as much into it, but
yeah.
You see all the guys that were there today, and I know the entire Celtics stayed there overnight in LA for this. Everybody. You saw Harden there, Westbrook there, Dwayne Wade was there, Candace Parker was there, WNBA. Obviously, him being such a champion for the women's game.
Yep.
Someone said on my Twitter, like, he could have been, when Gianna grew up and played in the league, he could have been commissioner of that league.
Oh, absolutely.
And he and her were going to just, make the WNBA the sport. And that's I think, adds another layer of heartbreak to it.
Yeah.
Because of what could have been. She was going to be amazing.
Totally. I agree. Well, and I also think that, especially in this pivotal moment for Dwayne specifically, I think that he is sadly drawing so much inspiration from Kobe and the way that Kobe lived and the way that Kobe lived in his retirement. And I think that in this first kind of story that Dwayne has encountered in his retirement, obviously with his daughter Zaya coming out as transgendered, I really think that Kobe's impact on Dwayne has changed even the way that Dwayne pictured his retirement. You know what I mean? So I think that's special just because that's the Mamba mentality living on through each and every one of those guys, no matter if they're still playing or if they're going off and doing other endeavors, to just make the people around them, whether they're kids, their friends, kids, all of the above, better. So I just thought that was really special, and obviously had to touch on that because D-Wade is my guy. And I think that even though it has been wrapped up in a tragedy for him, that it's just going to elevate him even more in the future. So excited to see what Dwayne does in his retirement, and how he elevates the people around him like only he can.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's done a great job. I think he's a great father, which is really important. So that's been really cool to see him in retirement with his family. I mean, that you don't realize that these guys are people.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. And kind of, I guess. Oh, there's the cat.
The cat wanted you to know that they're still there. Like, yeah. She's like, no, I'm here. Remember that.
She doesn't want to say, but she wants y'all to know she's here.
Exactly.
But still kind of in line with the family aspect of the NBA, and also kind of shifting back towards the All-Star conversation, but Kawhi joined the ranks of only one other player, and that player is Michael Jordan. because they are the only two players ever to win Defensive Player of the Year, Finals MVP, and All-Star MVP. So, yeah, crazy stats right there. I feel like Boardman is one of those guys who, like, everybody's like, oh, yeah, Kawhi, like, yeah, you know, Raptors, championship, whatever. But he really just doesn't get the recognition he should get when it comes to his records, you know, like the records that he has made and been a part of. And I think this is probably his biggest one yet. So
I would say so. I think a part of why he flies under the radar is I think he likes it that way, obviously. And it's if he had a big personality, he would get more of that recognition, more of like everything. But he's so just likes being under the radar, just likes being the guy that no one pays attention to, that I don't even think it bothers him. No one talks about it, and I think he likes it that way.
Yeah. Fully agree with you on that. I definitely think that he thrives off the lack of conversation around him. It definitely, I mean, he's not, I mean, that's why he has the I'm a fun guy quote, is because he has no way to show people that he's a fun guy unless he feels comfortable and open enough to be that way. He's not just you know, give somebody a false sense of who he is or what he is if it doesn't feel right to him. So I fully agree with you on like the fact that he just likes to kind of keep it under the radar and let his game kind of speak for himself, so to speak. I know it's kind of cliche to say, but he really doesn't talk much. He just kind of plays his game, and you know, when things happen, they happen.
That's it. And I think this summer his everyone talked about his free agency probably drove him nuts. Right? Because everyone was talking about him, and I was in I was at Vegas Summer League when he announced he's going to the Clippers, and I was eating dinner with my friends, and they were all Laker fans. And I read this tweet from Woj, and I laughed so hard because they freaked out.
You're like, no!
They're so angry. They thought he owed them something, and I'm just sitting there as a Celtics fan, like, ha, you know, like, and I loved it too because there's finally like good competition there. Yes. That's what I loved about it mainly, but also like the reactions are just so funny. Yes. That I was like, oh man, I'm so happy I'm at Summer League for this. This is the best.
No, I, as a Blazers fan, I totally agree with you. I was going to be so pissed if he went to the Lakers. I was going to be like, cop out. Of course you go there for the championship. Like, give yourself no challenge whatsoever. No. And then I tweeted, I was like, you know, I put my prediction out there. Kawhi is going to go to the Clippers, mark my words. And then, of course, when it happened, I'm scrolling back, screenshot, run me my money. Like, sorry, Lakers fans, but you guys don't get this one. You guys do not get this one.
Honestly.
So, but yeah, second to last topic is, and you're going to enjoy this because I enjoyed this, but Zion, our boy, joins Shaq and AI as the only number one picks in the last 30 years to put up 200 points in their first 10 games. So that's kind of a lot to digest because it's a lot of like numbers and stuff. But within the last 3 decades, Zion is the third first-round pick that has scored at least 200 points within his first 10 games. And if that is not indicative of the hype that Zion is about to deliver and is delivering, then I really don't know what is. I know that because of his injury, he was discounted from the Rookie of the Year conversation. Obviously, Ja Morant has kind of spearheaded the lead of that conversation. But I think it's been either 12 or 13 games now that Zion has played in since coming off of his injury, and he has only continued to put up even more record-breaking games as a rookie. So I think that even though Ja has got him beat by about 20 or 30 games played this season, I really think that Zion is making a legitimate run as a Rookie of the Year candidate. And if he keeps performing like he has been, there is literally no way that he won't win it. So just kind of felt that was important to stick out there, only because the Rookie of the Year conversation has kind of been a topsy-turvy one the last month or so. I feel like Ja Morant kind of controlled the conversation, but now that other players are getting comfortable and, you know, finding their camaraderie with their teams, and then obviously Zion coming back from his injury, I don't think that we should give it to Ja Morant just yet. So
I mean, what works against Zion is that he missed so much time.
yeah.
And he's been incredible since he's been back, but he missed so much. And Ja Morant, from what I've seen from him, is, oh my God, what a stud, that kid.
Yeah.
He's amazing, you know. So I do think it's gonna go to Morant just because he has the benefit of playing most of the season. I'm not gonna say a full season because there's still a few months left. I don't want to jinx the kid.
It happened.
Yeah, but I mean, Zion is definitely in, you know, he could be in the conversation. Yeah, I just don't know if he'd actually win it.
Yeah. I think it depends on how, you know, the next stretch of games goes. Obviously, we've got until about mid-April or so another, I think, 20 games, just about.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see, you know, because I know there are certain guys out there who are like, I don't care about that stuff, I just go play my game. But then I know there are some players who will hear that they're, you know, a certain number away from a specific stat, and they actually will try to play to that. So it'll be interesting to see if Zion, you know, steps on the gas, or if he just kind of does his thing, or, you know, kind of how he plays it from here on out. But if I know Zion like I think I know Zion, I think he'll try to give us a show. So it'll definitely be exciting to see.
100%.
But one last topic before we break for our guest interview. Obviously, we briefly mentioned it a moment ago, but Celtics versus Lakers was last night, just before we recorded. What are your takeaways?
My first takeaway is Jason Tatum is a superstar. Genuinely, that kid has been, I mean, the local games that you guys don't see nationally, the kid's been unreal, even like here. The kid's a superstar. The Celtics miss Robert Williams as their center, the defensive-minded second-year player at A&M, Texas A&M. He has a hip issue he's been dealing with. They missed Kemba last night. They could really use him.
Well,
he has a sore knee.
Oh, okay.
So you just have to make. She's been out since the All-Star break ended. He played in the game, but then the last 2 games he's been out. So all things considered, they played really well against the Lakers. You know, given that they had their All-Star point guard out.
Yeah.
You know, and the Lakers were fully healthy. I think there were some controversial calls at the end, which I did not like. But it is what it is. The 2-minute report came out and said they were correct, but I was like, okay, sure, whatever you want. Jaylen Brown did not step out of bounds, but apparently he was out of bounds. But whatever, we'll leave it at that. I got to see the Lakers fully play for the second time this season, and when they played in Boston, obviously the Celtics destroyed them. So I got to see them when Anthony Davis was fully healthy and like their fully healthy roster. There's a part of me that still looks at them and is like, I just don't know I don't know if this team can actually win a title.
Yeah.
Because I look at the Clippers and I look at literally all the other teams, and like playoff basketball is so different. You know, and if you shut down and you have Davis and Braun, but like, and they could maybe very well win a title. I hope not, because then they tie us in titles. So I just look at their roster and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't sit right with me. It's so LeBron AD heavy
Yeah.
that it just seems, like the rest of it in the playoffs, it just, I think, is going to be very different.
I really not much you said that I disagree with. I think that, I mean, I know the Celtics are tough. They're one of my favorites in the East. I can't stand the 76ers. I can't stand the Bucks. And
I love Giannis, but I can't stand the Bucks.
and I mean, I obviously will always have a soft spot for the Heat, but obviously without Dwayne, it's not the same as it was in the past. But now, I don't know. I really wish the Celtics would do something. I've got a close friend who is a huge Celtics fan, and I know that he would be just absolutely enthused if something good happened. So I don't know. I'll keep my fingers crossed for you. I do agree though on the fact that maybe the Celtics are just not quite there when it comes to personnel and getting things done, but we will see. Like you said, playoff basketball is so much different, and there could be a layer to all of these teams that we haven't seen yet, as far as how aggressive they're willing to be, how hard they're willing to play, and all of those things. So it will also be curious to see which teams really do go full into Mamba mentality. I know that obviously the Lakers have a lot to play for this season when it comes to, honoring the memory of Kobe. So it will just be kind of curious to see how emotions affect everybody going into the postseason for sure. So
100%. I mean, it's funny because everyone's like, well, the Lakers are going to win this year because of Kobe. But, like, every guy in the NBA has been emotionally hurt by this. I mean, Kyrie Irving, Jason Tatum worked out with him last year, Kawhi Leonard. Every guy has worked with him. Everyone knows him, everyone loves him. Every team has that drive. And yes, it means a little more because of the Lakers, but everybody has that, Like, Jason Tatum is basically Kobe. I mean, like, he modeled everything after him.
I agree.
So I don't know. I just find it a little weird when people are like, the Lakers, they're gonna win because now they're determined, and it's like, yeah, but so's everyone else. Like, they're just as they want to do this for him because he meant a lot to them.
Exactly.
So an interesting thing.
I agree. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up our news segment. So we're going to take a quick break, and here comes the guest interview, and then we'll be right back here afterwards for a little bit of culture and a few predictions. So we will see you guys shortly. Okie dokie. Well, I'm excited for this interview. We are here with probably one of my favorite people ever, to be blunt. And this is Derric Franklin. He's the general manager of Heat Check Gaming. So if you would like, go ahead and say hello to everybody before we start.
Hello to everyone before we start.
You're so sarcastic. I love it. So talk a little bit about general manager duties and your role with Heat Check Gaming and just kind of what all that entails. I don't really know a lot about the gaming world, so try and be specific.
Okay, cool. So I'm the general manager and head coach for Heat Check Gaming. So a lot of my duties are, I got to make sure that the players have flights. Like today, last night rather, I had to book flights for all the players to come into market. And got to make sure whenever we're out of town, got to make sure they have hotels. Got to make sure whenever we talk about like I'm part of the NBA 2K League. It's pretty much a startup type of thing. So you're gonna do a lot of stuff that you don't think you think like general manager does this, general manager does that for this sports team, and then here I am, a general manager for this team, and I'm booking flights and looking at hotels, making sure they have somewhere to live and stuff like that. So I'm pretty much like everything in between, from general manager to stepdad to babysitter to all this stuff, and that's cool with me because I love the player. I love every single player that I have come across my team or whatever, and it's been just a incredible journey. But back on topic though, since I'm like falling off topic at the moment.
But we're all here, sports talk mostly.
So So I got to make sure their living situations are good. I got to make sure, that I got to handle all trade requests. I got to handle the draft. We have a draft for this, just like the regular NBA. So I got to draft all the players. I got to instill a culture, a Miami thing, instill a culture that we have here. Um, all this stuff, man. It's so hard to say what exactly my duties are because it's so much, and I'm going to leave out a lot. But anything you can think of that it comes to like running a team, I'm pretty much doing that.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the guys that you manage, they're basically professional video gamers, right?
Correct. Yeah, they're professional video game players.
Okay, and so are they going when you say you're booking hotels and flights and things like that, is that for them to go to tournaments and gaming events and things like that? How often are you doing those things for them and how serious?
So right now, we just had our draft this past weekend, and I have to book the players' flights to come down to market to live in Miami. So they're going to be living in Miami for the whole season, which is about 6 months. And when the season starts, just about not just about, every single week, we travel mainly to New York, but also to other different venues and locations. But it's mainly to New York to play our games. So every single week, I'm booking flights and hotels to make sure that we have travel and we have a place to lay our head at night.
Okay. So then if the season's 6 months, what months does that cover?
Basically around April to like the middle of August, something like that. But that's when I say 6 months, I mean the amount of time that the players are actually with us. So they're moving down in March, and then it goes all the way to middle of August. Their contracts end in September.
Okay.
But by the time that contract is ended, they will probably already be back home. So they'll be still getting paid while they're home or whatever.
Right. That makes sense. So how long ago did you get into all of this with 2K, and what kind of led you to your role with Heat Check Gaming?
So it's cool. It's a lengthy story on how I got here. So like in 2016, I decided one day I just woke up and I decided, people that play 2K, they don't get the amount of people that play. Let me back up. People that play Pro-Am, the Pro-Am game mode in 2K doesn't get enough credit for their craft. So I decided to become like this voice of it, something like I decided to become an influencer for it because we didn't have one at the time. And so
Totally.
what was that?
I said totally.
Yeah, okay. So around that time or whatever, I would go into like streams and broadcasts, and I would watch the games. And after the game was over, I post like the screenshot on Twitter. And I started my Twitter from 0 followers in 2016, October 2016. I remember everything about it. October 2016, and I think it was October 9th, but October 2016, started from 0 followers or whatever, and I built it up where people would come just follow me just to hope for me to post the screenshots of the game. That was the early part. Around November or so, I introduced the YouTube part of it, and I started doing what I call Pro-Am Sports Center. It was a video layout that looked just like Sports Center, but it's me just talking about Pro-Am games that happen throughout that week or whatever. So I do like 2 or 3 of those a week, and it became players' goals to like get on Pro-Am Sports Center. If they get on Pro-Am Sports Center, if they feel like they're doing something right and they're on the right path, and that's what it was about for me, was just giving players avenue just to showcase that they're actually good at the game at what we do. Around 2017, I took vacation with my then girlfriend to New York for my birthday. It's like she booked this whole birthday week thing, and she had like this schedule, and her rule was you can't be on your phone. And I'm like, this is just like, she knew exactly what I did. This is being on my phone was an important part of me growing the famous enough name, even though there was no end game for it. I was just like hoping to just grow it and just do YouTube type of thing, and I wasn't thinking about nothing else because at the time there was no 2K league. So
Right.
um, one night, she allowed me to check my phone before we went to sleep, every night. So my notifications were like filled up, and I'm like scrolling, going through them or whatever. And one night, I think February the 9th, I believe, of 2017, right as soon as midnight hit, all of a sudden it was like this boom, like it was on Sports Center, it was on, all over the internet that the NBA and NBA two and Take Two, which owns NBA 2K, were merging together to create the NBA 2K League, and it was just chaos all over like my timeline. I think at that time I had about 3,000 followers or something like that. And it was just chaos. And I was like, whoa, what is this? Blah, blah, blah. In my mind, the first thing I'm thinking about is, this gives me an opportunity to create more content. This gives me more opportunity to grow my YouTube, and this type of thing. I wasn't thinking about being a part of it at the time.
Right.
Summertime rolled around, and I'm like, I want to be a part of it now. I want to find a way to get in. So summertime, I have like about 5,000 followers or so. So I try to figure out how could I accomplish this? How could I go about it? Because everything for me is like strategic. I don't do something that without thinking about a full layout for it. Like, how can I do this? So the Kings posted a position online. It was like the GM position online or whatever for their esports team that they was going to be in the 2K league with. And so I'm at work. I was working at the airport at the time. I'm at work. I'm like, how can I do this? How can I do this? I need more eyes on it. I'm just a regular person. To them, I'm just a regular person. To my community, I'm just this big person with 5,000 followers. They're like, ooh, 5,000. But at the time, for us, that was a lot. So I decided I looked up the people that was part of the Kings or whatever, and I saw a co-owner. Andy Miller, and he owned NRG Esports, esports team, and he was big in esports, and he was big on Twitter. So I said, okay, this was my plan. My plan was apply for the job. As soon as I apply for the job, get on Twitter, tag Andy Miller, tag the Kings, and tell everybody that's followed me to tell him to hire me.
Yeah.
Fail-proof plan, right? This is gonna work. This is gonna work. 100% this is gonna work. This is the T. I mean, I'm gonna get this job today. So they're blowing his mentions up. He's getting blown up, and within 10 minutes or so, he follows me, and then he DMs me, and he says, "Whoa, you're pretty popular. Did you apply for the job?" I'm like, "Yeah, I applied for it." He said, "What's your name? I'm gonna have them pull your resume and put you at the top of the list." I'm like,
wow.
Whoa, this really worked. This really. Like, I'm like stunned. I'm like running around my apartment like, this really worked. I can't believe this worked. So after probably after 5 minutes of him telling me that, I get this random DM from seemed like a burner account, but it was the King's employee. They're telling me, asking me for my name. They say, "Andy, you want us to pull your resume so we can take a look at it, so we can give you an interview, yada yada." I'm like stunned at the point, like this worked or whatever. So, I get on Twitter. I said, "Oh my God, I got an interview with the Kings, yada yada third." I'm super amped. I started putting a plan together for how I was going to present my case for them. I had a training schedule for them. I had all this stuff laid out. This was around July of 2017, 2018 rather. It's July 2018, I believe. Yeah. So, no, 17. Sorry, July 2017. Sorry. So August coming around, I get the interview. I think I'm doing great. Yada yada. I'm killing it. I feel like they asked me one question. They say, something about partnership. How would you bring in sponsorships? And I was new to just being famous enough. This just being this new persona was new for me. So I hadn't came across that yet. I haven't came across trying to grab the sponsorships or nothing like that. So my response was something like along the lines of I'm very new to the scene. So I think with the Kings namesake behind me, I can acquire sponsorships easily. Boom! I thought that was a excellent answer for the case or whatever, And we went on about our day, whatever. I get an email a couple weeks later saying that that they was moving on away from me. So I'm like, whoa, stunned. I'm stunned. I'm shocked. I put out a YouTube video over it. I'm depressed or whatever, and my girlfriend tells me something like, I want to quit. quit doing Famous Enough. I want to quit everything. I'm telling myself maybe I'm just not good enough for this. Maybe I'm only good enough to do the YouTube videos and the sports centers and posting screenshots on Twitter and blah blah blah. I'm like super depressed. I'm like down on myself and I want to quit. My girlfriend tells me, why would you build a foundation for a house and just move away from it and let somebody else live in it? At the time, I just wanted her to shut up. So I said, yeah, you're right. And as time went along, I'm like,
she's kind of right.
I get what you mean. I totally understand what it means now at this point or whatever. So December come around, the Heat put out a job posting. I applied. Don't think too much of it. I'm like, hey, whatever. And I'm just gonna apply to everybody that comes around now and just apply. And so I actually forgot about applying to it. January comes around, Brandon Donahue, the manager and director for the NBA 2K League, he messages me. He was like, Famous, what do you want to do? Do you want to be a player? Because at the time I was still playing. I was still pretty good. He's like, do you want to be a player or do you want to be on the business side of it? I immediately say, I want to be on the business side, yada, yada. So he's like, email me your resume and cover letter. I'll reach out to a few teams, yada, yada. So a couple teams got to me. I'm not going to say the names of the teams that I passed the Kings because I'm not gonna say the names of the teams past the Kings because the Kings is the team that I made public that I applied for, so I leave it at that. But
Right.
I had a couple interviews with a couple more other teams past that, and left it at that. One day in January of 2018, I get a random DM from Ben Spoon. Ben Spoon is like he's the founder and CEO of Misfits Gaming. He tells me. He says, I need you. He says, send me your number, just like that. I'm like, what the hell, So I send him my number. I know he's working with the Heat at the time because they have a partnership. So I send him my number, and he gave me his email, told me to email me my number. So I emailed it to him, and he don't say nothing back to me. He don't say anything to me. So I like 20, 30 minutes passed, and I messaged him back on Twitter. I said, I emailed it to you. And it just said red. That was it. I was like, okay, cool. Like, cool story, Yeah, cool, all right, whatever. So, the very next day, he calls me. Literally, he calls me. No warning, no nothing, no heads up, no nothing. He just calls me, and I'm talking on the phone to this guy, and it's like we're like best friends or something. I had never talked to him before in my life. I knew who he was, but I had never talked to him before in my life. I had no interactions prior to this with him at all. And we're like 45 minutes into this call, and we're just having a regular conversation. We're not talking about the job. We're not talking about anything. We're just regular conversation. Then he pops up and says, oh, yeah, what teams or have you been talking to? So I tell him, with the teams that I've interviewed with in the last couple of days or whatever. And he's like, just like that. It's like a pause. It's like a pause afterward, and probably 10 seconds later, he goes, "Well, I'm going to get you on the phone with a Heat executive tomorrow." Blown away. I'm like blown away. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, cool. So, he's like, okay, I'm gonna wrap up this interview. I was like, wait, this was an interview? I was like, yeah, you did great. We're gonna wrap up this interview, and we hang up the phone or whatever, and I'm like running around my apartment again, like yeah, type of thing, go to work and tell my boss, I'm like, yeah, I just did an interview with the Heat or whatever, and I got another one tomorrow. And my boss is like, cool, everybody's like rooting for me. And I come back home. No, while I'm at work, I get an email from the Miami Heat asking me about what time I'm available for tomorrow and this, that, and the third. And I tell them, and so I rush home after work and I'm like pacing around. They call me like at 3:00 on the dot. Like literally, as soon as it goes from 2:59. As soon as 3:00 hits, they call me like right there. I'm like, oh shit, they mean business, So, so I answer the phone and it's just one person talking, but I can tell that there's numerous people in a room with him.
Right.
He keeps muting the phone after he asks me a question, and as he unmutes it, you can kind of hear people like talking in the background, whatever. So I'm so super stunned. This person is Michael McCullough. Michael McCullough is the executive VP of marketing for Miami Heat. in the email that I received earlier that day, he was CC'd on the email. So him and a couple other people were CC'd on the email. So naturally, I jumped on LinkedIn to look these people up just to kind of get a feel for them. And I'm like, this Michael guy is the real deal. Like, yeah, I'm like this guy right here is the real deal. And I immediately became a fan of this guy without even knowing him, just based off all the work that he's done for the Miami Heat. He created the White Hot campaign. He created the Vice campaign, and I'm like, yo, this guy is the real deal. Um, so I'm on the phone with them. I'm super nervous. They ask me all these questions or whatever, and I'm answering. I'm blowing through them, and they pretty much say that I blew them away. Like, this is crazy. They like walk away from it. They say, we'll call you in a couple of days. We'll call you. No, they said we'll get back to you. We'll get back to you. Great interview. We'll get back to you. Hang up. So I've been on a few interviews already, and when the team tell you we'll get back to you, it's like a month. It's like you hear from them in a month or so. And I'm like, okay, got to keep living my life, got to keep going, yada yada. So Monday I got a call from Ben Spoon. Tuesday I'm on the phone with Michael McCullough. Wednesday comes and there's like I hear nothing at all from them. Thursday pops up and I get an email from the person that had been emailing. Her name was Clara. So I get an email from her asking, am I free to talk today? I'm like, oh, this is my third time talking to them in a week, and
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm available, yada yada, and third. So they call me and I'm talking to Michael again, and Michael goes, we don't normally do this, but we feel very good about you, and usually we like to invite people out and meet them in person before we do this, but we feel like we need to jump on this, and we're gonna hire you. We're gonna offer you the job over the phone. And I'm like,
Wow.
okay. I'm like, cool. I accept whatever. Yeah, I'm there. I'm there. And so she's like, we're really proud about this. We're Clara's gonna email you shortly and get you in touch with the right people that we need to. Yada yada. And third, as soon as I get off the phone, I get an email from HR for the Heat telling me I need to go take a drug test, and they give me the location to go to, and whatever. I go take the drug test. I think Saturday, Sunday morning, I had an offer in my email for the job. Crazy turn of events. They flew me out. They flew me out to Miami January 19th for a few days to film a promo cut or whatever. I went back home. Like they took me shopping, at the Heat store. I spent like $1,000 at the Heat store or something like that. And this is for me. This was like, it was like I have never been in this position before, where everything is just thrown to me, and anything I asked for, I was given to me. And like this was like, it was unbelievable. It was like an unbelievable feeling. They put me in a hotel right on Biscayne Boulevard, this high class hotel, and I'm like walking around that hotel in my robe, making videos and stuff, and I'm like super stunned, super shocked. I went back home after a couple of days, and I tell my job, I put my 2 weeks notice in or whatever. And they flew me. They moved me to Miami on February 20th of 2018, and I've been here ever since. And it's been
had to have been that year.
Huh?
I said, what a birthday present that had to have been for you
Yeah.
that year. Birthday's in February, right?
Yeah, it was a crazy time, man. Crazy time. I'm super like I feel like every team that I interview with or whatever, it is what it is. I had a lot of resentment because literally when I was on a call with Ben Spoon, I got like a rejection letter from a team, and I'm like stunned, but I'm on a phone call and I can't show I don't want to show my emotions about it or whatever, but. Those downfalls and those setbacks are what made me who I am today. If I wouldn't have got those rejection letters, or if I wouldn't be here right now. It's just a blessing. I feel like I came to the right team because they gave me full control of the team. I have I have the final say on everything that comes with this team, and that's the best feeling in the world.
That's cool. That's really special. I love that story. Thank you. I actually really appreciate the detail of it. I appreciate it. So, all of that being said, how has that journey changed the dynamic of gaming for you? Do you still game for pleasure? Obviously, you have your GM and head coach duties that take precedence, but are you still part of gaming culture as a player, and how has that changed the dynamic of gaming for you personally?
So I when 2K comes out, like the new version of the game comes out, I try to play like the first couple months just to get a feel for the game, so I can understand like what my players can and can't do, what builds they can and can't use and stuff like that. This past on 2K20, It came out in September. I played it up to about October-ish, and I put the game down. And then I tried to pick it back up around December, and I literally played for like a couple of days, and I'm like, I just don't have time. I just don't have time. Like I love playing 2K. I've always loved playing 2K, but man, I just don't have the time right now to play anymore. And I tell my players this whenever they come into market all the time. We're going to be practicing 2K, scrimmaging on 2K a lot. We're going to be playing in the season on 2K a lot. Whenever you get a chance and you feel like you want to play 2K, play a different game instead, because you need to take your mind away from that game for a little bit and just play something else. And our first season, my players were playing Overwatch. They was playing League of Legends. They would never really play 2K on their off time.
Yeah.
Because they I don't want them to burn out. So they was playing other
Yeah.
games. They was getting acquainted with other games, and I love that.
So you touched on a couple of them, but outside of 2K, what are your top 3 non-sports related games?
I'm gonna say like Super Mario, like on the one on NES.
Yes,
Like
I love that.
that's definitely number one. It's gonna be crazy because I'm stick with Mario, and like Mario Kart. That's like a party starter type game. Uh,
Absolutely.
and I'm gonna say like Contra,
Okay.
with the OG cheat code. Like that. Those are my games. Those like my favorite games.
That's awesome. Okay, so back to 2K a little bit. Talk about, obviously, I mean, your journey to 2K is obviously very memorable, but what are one of your biggest opportunities or like a most memorable moment that you have since being with Heat Check Gaming?
So whenever you start a journey, there's gonna be sacrifices made. When I was going to school and working at the airport, I was living in Indiana, and my daughter was living down here in Tampa, in Florida, Tampa, Florida, whatever. Yeah, whatever. And those times, I was struggling really. So all I was able to do was just, send money every month for my daughter, whatever. Me and my girlfriend came down for Christmas one time and spent a week with her, and that was about it. That was about it. For Father's Day in 2018, the Heat flew my daughter out from Tampa to Miami. It was before Father's Day because they wanted to, if there was anything, if it was Father's Day, then I would have kind of knew something was up. But they asked me to come in and to film a Father's Day piece, a piece of content or whatever on one day before Father's Day. It was like a week before Father's Day or something like that. And of course, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm on my way. I come in, and I'm in the studio and I'm filming it, and they ask me questions about being a father and this, that, and the third, and I'm answering the questions or whatever, and everything is cool. And then all of a sudden, they have a video of my daughter, and my daughter, she's saying Happy Father's Day, and she wish she can be there, and she does our little thing with the heart, make the heart with her hand,
Right,
and
and the feels.
I'm like, my jaw just dropped. I immediately started crying, and I'm like, where did y'all get that video from? And they was like, we got our ways, whatever, blah blah blah. And so as I'm sitting there crying or whatever, I turn over to the left, and my daughter's standing there, and that was the most amazing thing that anybody. I'm gonna like tear up right now, but that was like
Oh my
that's gonna
God.
be that's like the most amazing thing that anybody has ever done for me, and I
Oh,
and I tell them that all the time, that that they're amazing for that, and It's just crazy. It's amazing. That's one thing. The second
Yeah.
thing they did was they recognized me on Veterans Day and on the center court of a Heat game. And as I'm looking up at at the video that they have planned, my mom and my stepdad are walking to the court, and I'm just blown away. I'm blown away, and I hadn't seen my mom and my stepdad at that point in like 2 or 3 years or something like that, and I'm blown away. So uh, then they take us to the back, and they're walking, and there's this guy in the back, just you can't really see him or nothing because he's deep in the shadows or whatever, and then he emerges, and it's Pat Riley, and
Oh,
Pat Riley, he knows my name, and he tells me I'm legendary and all this stuff, and he calls me famous and talks about my season, and we lost the finals for season one. And he talks about that finals loss, and he says like you can win as many championships as you want, but that first finals loss is something that you'll always remember because that's going to be your bounce back. And I'm just blown away that somebody like Pat Riley, a legend to me, and a lot of people, of course, as well,
yep.
knows exactly who I am and knows about my season and all this stuff. The Miami Heat is I don't know, man. I can't say enough good things about them.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, just as an outsider's perspective, based on those two stories alone, it just seems like family is a very important part of Miami culture, and that is so, I mean, evident. Obviously, Miami is all about, blending culture all together and the family aspect. So it's really just special. I hate to overuse that word, but very special that they it trickles down. It's not just something that they show to the fans or they show to the
Yeah.
players, but it's trickling down throughout the whole organization too. That is amazing. Makes me even more proud to wear these colors. But you touched a little bit on Pat Riley. How has the actual game and the involvement of the real life version of basketball, how has that helped evolve the art of NBA 2K and Heat Check gaming in general?
So it's really cool though, because like everybody knows that like Eric Spoelstra come from like as a video assistant with the Miami Heat and how he came up or whatever to be the head coach for Miami. Uh, during our finals run, our run to our finals, we was running offense five. It was basically five out, and I wanted to make sure that it was the right type of offense for us to run. If it was, if we had better options for offense. So my boss put me in contact with a video assistant for the Miami Heat, and they went over our gameplay and how we were scoring compared to with us running this offense compared to how we was running previously before we ran an offense. And this video assistant his name is Coop. He's a really really dope guy. He emails me like, man, the email I had to be like this long and outdrawn thing about, basically just tell me at the end, yes, you're running the right offense. and it's really dope because it's like every part of the Miami Heat that the NBA side we can use as well.
Yeah,
And they really showed me that.
that's cool. That's really awesome. I think a lot of people, especially people like myself who aren't really well versed in gaming and don't really know a lot about it outside of like the basic Super Mario
Yeah.
stuff, that it's I think it's pretty obvious that the game of basketball would also elevate the 2K league and, just the, being able to embed the culture within them
Yeah.
together, like you're saying. And it obviously applies, even though it's a video game, it's still very based off very real movements and very real
Hmm.
concepts. And so I just think that's really awesome that I don't think a lot of people, like I said, on the outsider's perspective would think right away that that's something that you would be able to utilize as a gaming head coach. But that's very cool that those people are able to give you their time and their intelligence and support the team in that way too, because it's only going to elevate the whole organization.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. You mentioned at the beginning of the interview that you guys had just done the draft. take us through that process and how it fits into the overall picture of gaming with NBA 2K and why that might be a goal for a gamer to reach the draft.
So, it's such a lengthy process, to be honest with you. The whole process starts around October, because you have to qualify for what we, just like the NBA we have a combine just like the NBA. So you have to qualify for the combine. So you have to win 50 pro-am or rec games with a 50% win percentage. So that's the outlier to qualify for the combine. So that's the first step. The second step is the combine, which took place in November, end of November to early December. So it was 3 weeks of the combine. So basically, you load up into the game against players. You can't pick your teams. It's 5 random players, and you just got to do your best. You got to do your best to get the wins, whatever. And this part right here is the part that takes a lot of people out, because it's frustrating. It takes people out of their comfort zones. They're used to playing with their friends and stuff like that. And it is definitely a part that breaks a lot of players to get to that part. So we can go from, I'm just going to throw a random number out there, 40,000 people that qualified to play the combine, and then out of that 40,000 or so people, only 175 are chosen to make the draft pool. And so that's the first wave of the draft pool emails or whatever. So emails are sent out to these players or whatever, and that's the first wave. And they have to go through an interview with a third party that the league has assigned to interview all 175 something players. So out of those 175 players, they break it down. 25 people are cut from that right there, from that clock, and then we have tournaments. There's tournaments to get into it. There's tournaments to make the draft pool that happen early October or so.
Okay.
And so if you win a tournament, one player is selected as the MVP, and the team can select another. These are team tournaments. Different teams can hold different tournaments, whatever. So about 20 players made the draft pool from that. So that takes us to 170. And then you have international players that can make the draft pool. That's tournament. That was a tournament held in Seoul.
Oh, okay.
And then there was a tournament that was held in crap. I don't remember where that other tournament was held. I know it was an Asian Pacific tournament and it was a European tournament or whatever. And so the 2K League flew out to both of those locations. They held tournaments so players could make it. So that's another 20 players from that's added into that. So now we're at 190. And then there's 50 players that was unretained from the previous season that's in the draft pool. So it's about 240. It's about 240 players that's in the draft pool for about 68 spots. There's only 68 spots available. So it's a tough process. It's excitement. Draft day is excitement for a lot of players, but more players that are happy. It's a lot of players that are happy, but there are more players that's going to be let down as well in a process. And everybody can be drafted. It's just like the regular NBA. It's not possible for every single player to get drafted. Somebody's going to have to be let down. Somebody's going to have to be faced with those tears. And it's just the belly of the beast, to be honest with you. If you're one of the best players in the world and you want to make it, I'll say go for it every single time. It's going to hurt if you don't make it. It's going to hurt to get to that point of being at the draft and not get selected. But if you want to keep going, if this is what you truly want to do, then I'm going to say keep going, because if you look at my resume, I got 4 or 5 different rejection letters before I actually got that one that said we're going to hire you. So it's going to that one is all that matters. You just got to keep pushing forward.
Yeah, you have to persevere. If you really want it, you're going to take all those no's, like you said, to get the one yes that changes for you. So,
yeah.
So why is making the draft such a huge thing? I remember when you were tweeting out like the email of the first wave of draft, and I was like, what the heck is this?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, wait, what are y'all talking about? But why is it important for these gamers, and why is this something that somebody would go through all that frustration, the potential letdown? Like, Like, is it that big of an opportunity? Is it more of a passion thing? What encompasses and what envelops somebody to want to be part of NBA 2K draft?
So like we've been playing this game, excuse me. We've been playing this game for 10 plus years for free. You know, this is our strictly passion, still strictly hobby where we're staying up hours and hours and getting no sleep for this game. And then all of a sudden, there's an opportunity for you to become a pro and make an actual salary doing this, you know. And it's like, wait a minute, I can get paid to do something I like. You know, I don't have to work this dead end job that I really hate, just waking up and going to every single day. I can do what I really love, and that's playing 2K. And I think that's what it comes down to for a lot of players. You know, just pushing for the fact that they love the game and they've been playing it forever, and this is the opportunity just to show everybody else that they're professional.
I love it. I love it. I was like, it's interesting that you say that because I was actually just talking on Facebook a few days ago about being able to make money you love doing something that you only consider a hobby and kind of this you have to make to go through that. So I love that you touched on that. It's surprising, but we're already a little bit past our interview time limit. So just to wrap up real quick, I know you have some limitations. I want to respect that. So March Madness is coming up. What is your prediction for either March Madness winner or at best a championship game matchup?
You know what's crazy? Before the season, I probably would have said Memphis because I like Wiseman.
Okay.
But since he's gone, I don't want to.
Sorry, by the way, I cannot believe how that all panned out for him. That was insane.
It was insane, definitely insane. But at the end of the day, you got to do what you feel is best for you and your family. But you know, I don't want to sound like a front runner right now because they just beat Baylor. But I like KU. I like KU. I really do like Azubuike. Like he is. And it feels like Azubuike has been there forever, to be honest with you. It feels like he's been there forever, but I think that right now his game is finally like refined, and he finally knows who he wants to be and what type of player he wants to be. And there's literally nobody in the NCAA right now that can stop him. So I'm riding with KU right now.
It's funny you say that about Azubuike feeling like he's been there forever, because I remember one of the first games I caught of theirs this season, I was like, wait, he's still there?
It reminds me of when they had, what's his name, like Perry Ellis or something.
Yeah.
It felt like Perry Ellis was there like for like 7 years or something, and he was literally there for like 5, and it was still a long time, like what's going on type of thing. But yeah, I really do like Azubuike's game a lot.
Yeah, me too. Well, I'm a huge Duke fan, so I'll definitely be looking forward to giving you shit if you're wrong. But my squad hasn't exactly held up on the most easy win games that they've had. They have gotten really bad upsets this year. So, well, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you so much. You're definitely one of, I think, probably the coolest people that I've been able to connect with over NBA Twitter so far. So I really appreciate you lending us your time and coming on to talk about Heat Check Gaming. I appreciate you. And if you'd like to say in closing, feel free to let the people know.
I took an hour out of my day from getting these players' apartments ready to come talk to you, and now I got to go back to doing that. So I wish I could talk a little longer because I don't feel like doing it right now. But yeah, if you want to look for me, everything You Famous Enough on every single social media platform. I appreciate you for having me, and I love you all the time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too.
Awesome. Well, that was a cool interview. Obviously, Derric from Heat Check Gaming is one of my good friends, so I had to put him in for part of this, I guess, kind of my D-Wade jersey retirement weekend episode. So there's that. But closing out the episode, just a few culture topics and then some predictions, like we always do. Unintentionally, all of my culture topics are cannabis related. And I genuinely, unintentionally did that. I build my stories as news comes out through the week, And then when I kind of wrote everything down as far as like all the screenshots and bookmarks that I had taken, these happened to be the 3 things that were more culture related rather than, recent game and sports happenings. So that's why they're in the culture section and not the news section. And like I said, unintentionally all cannabis related, but obviously it's important to me as somebody in sports and somebody in cannabis, that I do my part to advocate for the benefits that cannabis can have and the positives that it can bring to recovery and athleticism over prescription or surgical options. Obviously when people have specific injuries, sometimes surgery is inevitable, but being able to go about less habit-forming means of recovery is kind of why I have always pioneered and advocated for the use of cannabis and, THC and CBD. And obviously then being in a legal state in Oregon has allowed me to have a little bit more access to that than some people across the nation. No names. But the first topic that caught my eye was that Isaiah Thomas, and this is OG Isaiah Thomas, not recently waived from the Wizards Isaiah Thomas, but Isaiah Thomas partnered with a cannabis company called Vessel Oils, and admittedly I don't know a lot about that company. I don't really know where they're based out of or anything like that, but this is significant because other than Al Harrington, Isaiah Thomas is like one of the first former NBA stars that I've heard of that is publicly becoming involved with the cannabis brand. So a little bit more advancement for the NBA as far as getting cannabis off those PED lists, or at least CBD, so that these guys can use potentially more therapeutic muscle rubs or tinctures or things like that, other than turning to even harmful things like ibuprofen and Advil, because we know that over time those things can build up in our systems and create harmful environment for our liver and kidneys and all those things. So without getting into a full-blown anatomy lesson, I just think that it's really cool that Isaiah, like I said, in addition to Al Harrington, is getting into the cannabis company, and hopefully more people around the NBA, both in the league, the G League, and draw a little bit more attention to cannabis, get a little bit more information going around to players and things like that, because I think that, as far as I know, the NBA is one of the last organizations to kind of enter the conversation about cannabis. So hopefully this opens up the doors for more of those athletes to be involved as well. Like I said, I don't really know many details about the company or about the products that they have. I just didn't really have a lot of time to research that. But the subject matter in and of itself is what's important. So, but yeah, that's it's important to me just because I think that, especially again going back to all these guys in their retirement, when you think about ways that you can influence other athletes and ways that you can help shape other athletes, this is just another route that a former pro can say to even some of the college guys, like, hey, look, there's a better way. And I think it's just a really important part of the conversation as far as education goes, and knowing what's out there and knowing what people can put into their bodies and what people can use for means of recovery, especially in, elite athletics like the NBA. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that what he's doing is great. And I think that I'm actually very surprised that the NBA is one of the last to be, because the MLB took it off its list, the NFL took it off its list, which is massive. And if you're behind the NFL, oh man, are you doing something wrong? Oh.
I just say that because it kind of conjoins with the second culture subject that I have, was that the NFL is no longer suspending players for cannabis use. And on episode 4, I had Mo Ayachi from RTNBA on as the guest interview, and he is always joking that the NBA is better than the NFL. And I fully agree, but then when you say that, I'm like, do I agree?
It's like the one thing that they've dropped the ball on, that the NBA. Otherwise, like, they're so much more elite. But like, come on, man. Everyone does it anyway. You know that all your players smoke it. Just take it off your list of banned substances.
Exactly. So what's surprising too is like they have like the NBA India, and there's so many different foreign influences for the NBA that it's almost like surprising in a way, especially because we have the Toronto Raptors, who are obviously in Canada, and Canada is fully legal. So it's kind of like, wait a second, how are they not, NBA not part of this conversation? And like you said, to your point, how is the NFL beating you on this?
Very concerning.
I don't get it, but hopefully it's one of those things. If one takes a big step forward, maybe the other will take 3 big steps forward. Who knows? But
yeah, I think that's what it's going to end up being, honestly.
I hope so, because I can only see positive things coming from it, and I think that it would actually open up the door for the NBA specifically to partner with more brands and get more endorsements and more money, especially if this situation with China is really as big of a deal as they say it is as far as revenue goes. Maybe cannabis isn't a bad option.
Really not the worst thing.
You know, so it's just kind of one of those things we'll definitely have to see how it ends out. And obviously there's changes coming down through the NBA. Obviously we're going back to the old format where players will be able to enter the pros straight out of high school. So who knows? Maybe with those types of changes, other changes will come around. And obviously we know that NCAA has big things on their hand as far as what they're dealing with when it comes to players lobbying to be able to make money while they're NCAA eligible. I really think that even though they're all separate conversations, that in the bigger picture, they all have everything to do with one another. So, like I said, it will just kind of be curious to see how one league takes cues from another league. I feel like sometimes like you hear a progression in one league and then it kind of stops, and then you hear something somewhere else and you're like, but wait, whatever happened, with the NFL? There's news that comes out that reminds you of news past, and so hopefully, like I said, they all come full circle eventually in the next couple of years.
I hope so.
Well, and also part of the reason why it should all come full circle is because of my third culture point. But the Cleveland Browns offensive tackle Greg Robinson was arrested at the U.S.-Mexico border with 157 pounds of marijuana. Now, this is a little bit different conversation because obviously he is transporting, obviously he is dealing, and obviously he's crossing borders. there's
that's a lot. That is a lot of weed.
Yeah, there's a lot more here than just the marijuana conversation, but you kind of have to stop to wonder if somebody like a former player, Greg Robinson, would even be in this predicament if cannabis was not only federally legal, but if it was recognized as a non-performance enhancing drug by all of the professional leagues. Obviously, it's not the league's fault that this guy was stupid enough to transport products and then get caught with it at a border. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But I think that the legality conversation lends itself to trying to figure out why he did what he did. Obviously, he's going to Mexico to sell it. You're not taking 157 pounds to Mexico to vacation.
I mean, I don't know, maybe, but I doubt it.
You wouldn't even take 10 pounds on vacation. That is just an absurd amount. You're definitely going to distribute. So, obviously, he's facing, like, upwards of 20 years in jail for this arrest. But, again, back to the conversation where if it was legal, would we even be talking about this?
That's the thing. Well, I think the problem is distributing and that aspect of it. I think that's where, like, I don't know what the rules are in other countries, but I think that's kind of where you run into the problem. Like, yeah, there's the not legal federally, but you not being a dispensary, not being an actual marijuana business, you still dealing it as an individual, I think that's still a problem.
Yeah, that's the black.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So he would still be in trouble anyway. I mean, I can tell you, the whole marijuana thing, it's so funny to me because they made it legal here in Massachusetts about 2-3 years ago, more than that, 4 years ago, 2016. And there's like 2 dispensaries.
That's so
because
wild.
everyone here is like scared of, like, you know, your whole reefer madness nonsense. Because it's it's a lot of older generations of people here.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously not their fault, given, you know, founded America and all that good stuff. But it's like, dude, you just build the damn dispensary. Like,
yeah,
I don't want to have my friends would have to drive like 45 minutes to, you know, like, just build the damn thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Coming from, I mean, in Oregon, there's like 500 plus dispensaries all across the state. I think there's only 3, and maybe now that's less. I think there's only 3 or 4 counties in the entire state of Oregon that don't have at least 1 dispensary in them. And that's all counties, and it's also the city jurisdictions on whether or not the city will allow cannabis permits. So in the city that I live in, there is, I think, 24 dispensaries and probably about 50 producer or processors. And producer and processor licenses in Oregon are different. But then in the next town, 20 minutes away, they are not allowed to, within the city limits of that town, have producers, processors, or dispensaries.
Oh, wow.
People in that town have to either come 20 minutes this way or another 20 minutes north to the next town that does have dispensaries allowed. So
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so it's still, like you said, it's still one of those things where even though it's legal in some regions, that there are still a lot of hesitations just as far as, like, the mentality of it goes. You know, and people, yeah, it's legal, but should we, or do we, or can we, or how do we? You know, all those things that people are like, but I mean, if I have a license, does that mean the feds can still come knock on the door? Technically, yeah, they can, you know, but the state has ensured that because the state laws are allowing it, the state won't allow the feds to come knock on your door. You know what I mean? So
yeah, you're protected under the state, and then the whole question then becomes, what do you do with your money, because the bank is not going to take it.
Exactly.
I don't know what happens. I don't know if you have to use a bank that strictly does business in your state, you know, like one of those really small banks. I legit don't know how the financial part of it works. Like, where does your money go? Because
right.
A Bank of America is not going to take your money.
Right.
Well, want to.
And of connecting what you just said about the bank issue back to the arrest of Greg Robinson, it's like that. It's like, okay, well, what are you gaining here? You know what I mean? Because A, you're an offensive tackle. What the hell is 157 pounds of marijuana gonna bring you that the NFL hasn't?
Mm-hmm.
And B, why are you gonna risk such a hefty price tag for getting caught versus the money that you could, not even guaranteed that you could make by transporting this? I just don't
Yeah.
the connection there. It's not happening for me. Even as somebody who is as well versed in the cannabis industry, I've been in it since black market. I know a lot about it, and still for me, I'm just like, it doesn't compute why somebody in his position would do this. So as much as I would like to rally around the fact that he shouldn't be in trouble and he shouldn't, there shouldn't be consequences and weed should be legal and yada, 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 that's all true, but I still just can't wrap my head around why he would do that. Like, why are you looking for this special treatment to begin with?
Maybe he's broke. Maybe he has a financial problem.
Yep.
That's the only thing that can come to my mind, because you don't need to sell that much weed. If you are having physical ailments, then you're not going to have 157 pounds over the Mexican border to distribute. I really think that there must be a financial problem.
Yeah. Honestly, at the end of the day, is sad, if you ask me, because kind of like I just said, the risk that you put yourself in for even trying to compensate for the monetary amount that you could make is just kind of not worth it. So I don't know. Don't really know what he was thinking there. Like I said, unintentionally picked 3 cannabis-related topics to stick in that culture segment. But I feel like, the more that people are talking about it, the more comfortable other people will be to talk about it. And I know I'm just a little rinky-dink sports podcast over here, and nobody really listens too much to what I have to say, but hopefully on a bigger picture, bigger stage, bigger platform, that maybe somebody of influence will hear what I have to say and do research and think about how cannabis can be beneficial in more ways than just selling it to make money.
Yeah.
But not to hesitate too much longer, but we will close out this lovely episode with a few predictions. I think, what time is it? I think it's happening right now. The women's basketball game of Oregon versus Stanford. Obviously, Sabrina Ionescu spoke at Kobe's memorial service this morning, and then left a service and was transported to the Stanford campus to meet up with her team to play this game. And I personally am convinced that Sabrina is just going to go full Mamba mentality and completely ball out. So what do you think? What's your prediction on this Oregon versus Stanford game?
So, game's up for another hour, so we still have some time. Sabrina's going to go nuts. She's probably going to wear herself a pair of Kobe and just go on everybody.
You're cutting
really
out.
Believe that. Huh?
Oh, wait. Oh, are you good?
Good? Yes?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Is it? You got it?
Yeah, I don't know if it's you or me.
You might see me. I have no idea.
Okay, we're good. There you go.
Good. I was gonna say she's gonna go bananas. She's just gonna go Mamba on everybody tonight.
I agree.
She's gonna go lace up a pair of Kobe's and just fall out.
Yeah.
And she should. Good for her.
I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it's either 25 or 26 games in a row with a triple-double. And I think she's going to do it again. So definitely excited to see. Oh, Oh, I'm glad about this notification I just got because it's one of my other predictions that I have laid out for us to do. But I am definitely excited to see Sabrina, like you said, she's going to go full mama mentality. She's going to get another triple-double. She is the points leader in the Pac-12 right now. So she's just going to add to that cushion, I feel like. So I'm with you. I'm taking Oregon on this prediction. Obviously, I never pick against Oregon. They're my squad. So, and then for the men's basketball prediction, we mentioned them earlier, but we have Louisville versus Florida State, I believe that should say. I didn't write state, but I think it should say state.
I haven't really watched too much of it. I'm gonna go Louisville just because I feel like Louisville is, like you said, like always kind of that sneaky team. I've never Florida State never has a great program. Honestly, they have a great one, so I'm gonna go Louisville on this one.
Yeah, me too. I'm picking Louisville, even though they stomped on our guys at Duke and they beat them. I gotta go with Louisville. I can't hold a grudge for this one. But then switching gears real quick to NBA, we've got, I think they play tomorrow night, Pelicans versus Lakers.
I think so. This is interesting because my gut and my head actually both say the Lakers are probably gonna win.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go wild card and say the Pelicans are gonna have a good game. Because they have Zion back. They have Zion back, and that makes a huge difference. And then Brandon Ingram's a stud, and Lonzo's having a really great year. And like, I think that they can surprise them. Why not?
Yeah. Okay. I agree with you. Obviously, I'm a Brandon Ingram lover. He is obviously a Duke alum. But I'm gonna go with the Lakers. And here's why. Because the Blazers just beat the Pelicans before the All-Star break. And if the Blazers can beat the Pelicans, the Lakers for sure can beat the Pelicans.
Oh, man.
Sorry to my Blazers for saying that.
That is a brutal way to talk about your team, bro.
It's a sports podcast, not a Blazers podcast.
It's true. That's true. Good for being impartial.
But since you mentioned it, what I was just referring to was this Celtics versus Blazers matchup later in the week. Obviously, you're sick. I'm a Blazer, and I just got this notification from good old ESPN that Lillard will not be playing versus.
So here's my thing. If Kemba doesn't play, then it's more even.
Yeah.
It's more even. But if Kemba plays,
we're screwed.
You're screwed. Or like,
I agree.
Or like, our guys are like really pissed about yesterday and what happened in that Laker game. So like, you might have Tatum and Brown and go off, and then Marcus Smart might have his weirdo ass like 30-point game that he does sometimes, and then Hayward is always a wild card. He's really good and good. So like, I'm going with my guys. Like, it really depends if Kemba's playing how evenly matches would be, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that without Dame, obviously we saw the other night in the Pelicans game with the Blazers, it really, really depends what kind of game CJ McCollum has.
Yeah.
And it's been unfortunate. It's been kind of heartbreaking as a Blazers fan, honestly, because when you have 2 point guard shooting guards, it usually does work out like this. But when Dame is really hot, CJ is less hot. But when Dame is out, then CJ's on fire. And I think all of Rip City kind of agrees that we wish CJ could just get on his game when playing minutes with Dame.
Yeah.
Because then we would be doing so good, but we can still clinch that 8th seed in the West, I think we have about 6 or 7 more games to be able to do it in. And it obviously also depends on who wins and who loses between that time. But I fully agree with you that if Kemba is playing, we are in trouble. And if Melo has a bad game, if Whiteside has a bad game, if anybody gets ejected or anybody fouls out, we're screwed. We've got 9 or 10 guys suited, depending on who's healthy on any given night.
Oh, you guys have the worst luck. I feel so bad because I like the Blazers a lot, and it's just like, oh.
It's just painful to watch right now. But Rip City is rooting hard, and I know you as a Celtics fan can understand the like up and down emotional roller coaster.
Oh, yeah. It's exhausting. Last year killed me, let me tell you something. Oh.
But obviously, I had to throw that last prediction in there, being you as a Celtic, me as a Blazer. It was just too perfect. It was on Tuesday, right smack dab in the middle of when we get to put the episode out. So, obviously, just wanted to say thank you so much for your time and coming on and just BSing with me about sports.
Well, thank you for having me. This was fun. I enjoyed it.
Of course. I really appreciate you, and hopefully we'll be able to get you on maybe another handful of weeks or so when you're not too busy. And please keep us updated with Center Court TV and let us know if there's anything that we can do for you over there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll keep in touch. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Talar. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.